Okay, well, welcome back, everyone. Shalom, shalom. This is Pastor John Craig here at Life of Worship Ministries in Amarillo, Texas. It's so good to be back with you after a Memorial Day weekend and a celebration, don't say it, of my wife's birthday. Yeah, she just had a birthday celebration over the weekend. And so anyway, we had a great time and had a good weekend. Got a lot of stuff done, worked hard, took a little bit of break where we got to enjoy a little bit of the weekend as well. But anyway, I'm so glad that you're with us this evening on Walking in Spirit and Truth. And my goodness, we are on a journey, and I hope you've been enjoying the journey. It is on the Book of Enoch. And just so you know, I don't know if you've gone back and you've checked the Life of Worship YouTube channel, but I've taken the whole series on Enoch so far, and it's on its own playlist. So if you go to the Life of Worship Ministries YouTube channel, you can go to the playlist and you can find all of the Enoch series there. Before, here on Walking in Spirit and Truth, we did a whole series on for Ezra, or if you're using like a King James version with the Apocrypha in it, it is 2 Esdras. We went through a whole series there. We saw all sorts of different things in that series, like Planet 7X and a whole bunch of prophecies that rang similar to what we see in the book of Revelation and Daniel and other things. We had a really good time there. You can check that out in our Enoch series on with Walking in Spirit and Truth. So, hey, shalom, shalom. Tammy and Eddie Johnson, is good to see you this evening. And so I am broadcasting here from not our studio, but this is our worship center here at Life of Worship Ministries in Amarillo, Texas. And if you'd like to join us, you can and be part of, if you're like, I don't have a fellowship, I don't have a congregation to join with, you can join us here at Life of Worship and at the Life of Worship Ministries YouTube channel. And we meet on Shabbat at noon for our Torah portion. It's about 2 hours, and from noon to about 2, and we do the Torah portion, and we're using well, it doesn't matter. We go through the Torah portion. So be part of it. Be part of the discussion, the Midrash. We've got a number of people that join us in the chat. We would love to have you participate with us in the chat on that as well. We have a Midrash of the people that are locally in Amarillo. And if you're ever in Amarillo, come and join us for the Torah portion. And then at 3 p.m., so we have a little break between Torah portion, and then we have our encounter service, 3 p.m. Central Time, and where we have a time of worship, some ministry, some message. Sometimes we don't even get to the message because we certainly want to be in tune with what the Spirit of the living God, the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, is saying to the congregation today. So we're experiencing a lot of great things, and we would love for you to be part of that locally. Come join us in person. So, hey, Vault 25-8, Michael. Hey, it's good to see you too. Shalom, shalom. Hope you're doing well. We've missed you here locally in Amarillo. Okay, I think that's all the niceties or the housekeeping things or anything like that. Oh, I do want to say this. If you hadn't had an opportunity to bring a love gift or even your tithe or an offering to Life of Worship Ministries, and you would like to participate with us as we join together to provide the best live streaming that we possibly can and to provide the ministry that we possibly can here in Amarillo, we would love for you to participate with us. You can go over to the Life of Worship Amarillo.org website. So that's Life of Worship Amarillo, all one word, .org website. I'm going to put it on the ticker right here. You can see that across the page. You can, when you go on there, we've got a button that you can click, and it's for donations, and go in there, and that'll take you and bring you a link. You can either use a debit card, credit card, a bank account, however works for you, and give that online donation. Or if you would like to mail one through the regular mail system, you can go to the website and you will find our mailing address. So anyway, there you go. That's all the housekeeping things. Hey, are y'all ready to join now back with this whole complete amazing journey of Enoch? we kind of we last week, we had some things that were going on. We talked about this interesting uh, this interesting. I don't like to say doctrine as much as is that there's a statement of what happens to the spirits of the giants. And so what happens to the spirit of the giants? We'll touch on that before we go into the new stuff again. And Tammy, yes, I believe she had a really wonderful birthday. And so thank you for asking. And we got to spend some time together, and that was really, really good. We just had a tremendous evening together the other evening, and we were able to just spend some time together and relax, which we really needed because we're always just on the go. I mean, like today, I've seen Sandi today, but I haven't had really much of an opportunity to talk to her because everything that we've discussed is simply about, okay, what about this and what about that and what about that? And she's been busy with the grandchildren, and I've been on the road. Yeah. Dodging a rainstorm. Michael, you'll know, I was coming back in from Pampa, and the clouds were so dark and the wind was blowing because of this major severe thunderstorm that we were being warned about. And Sandi and I prayed that no hail would come upon our property and our garden would be protected and all of that. And, we prayed, and then we commanded the storm. And then after we got off the phone, and I was rebuking the severity of the storm so that all we would get is some rain. And you know what? All we got was some rain at our house. I don't know about the surrounding. Down in Canyon, they said they had golf ball size hail. So that's just, 10 from our house, about 10 miles south. Just saying, it's good. It's good to just be able to exercise our faith. And when we go through the trials and we're like, I didn't want that, and I was praying and I was standing on the word and I still got clobbered. Well, then there's a greater purpose in that. So, but anyway, I just praise y'all for his goodness and watching over us. And so there you go. Testimony of the day. Some good news. We love to have testimonies, and that Yah is not a respecter of persons. So if he'll do it for one person, he'll do it for another person. He just wants you to believe him. And so anyway, good to see you, Joe. I'm glad that you are with us as well this evening. Okay, so we're going back here and we're talking about Enoch now, and this whole idea of the spirits of the giants. And I mentioned some things on Shabbat, kind of rehashed some things on Shabbat. That was I wasn't supposed to preach, and all of a sudden I had to fill in. So that was a last moment. I'm just telling you, Shabbat was a last moment message I had not anticipated to do. But anyway, I went back and kind of rehashed some of these things. And so it says that it says that the spirits of the giants, they are first evil spirits. They're evil spirits. It says evil ruachot. And that is the words that's used in the Sefer edition. But what happens to the spirits of these giants when the giant's body dies? Okay, because their father was an angel whose abode was supposed to be in the heavenly realms, but they left the heavenly realms. We're going to get into they left the heavenly realms. Now, what happens to them? We're going to talk about it. Hopefully, we're going to get there tonight, this evening. And their mothers were earthly. Now, I'm going to tell you something. A lot of times they think, I guess I've had this opinion. I don't know about you guys, but I've had this opinion about the women, and I've kind of looked at. Honestly, I've kind of looked at it in several different ways in the past, but in one sense, I almost thought like these angels and watchers that came and they got together with the earthly women. That in one sense, it was that they were enticed by their beauty, but on the other hand, that there was almost like they enticed the women and impregnated the women, and the women gave birth to their offspring. The giant ended up being the giants. And we're going to look at this because it's actually Enoch presents a different story. Very interesting. What was it about these women? What type of characteristic? And I would say, I was going to say personality, but it might be bleed into it a little bit. But what characteristics of the women that did a little bit more to the angels? The angels, maybe they didn't resist. I don't know. It's intriguing to me. But on the other hand, their offspring are the giants, and the giants, when they die, their spirit is now, they can't go to heaven because that's where the angels are. They really don't have the same type of judgment as mankind does. Well, maybe they do. Maybe they do. But on the other side, they don't have a holding place for them. Did you ever consider that? That the spirits of the giants, which last week we talked about that they were called Nephilim. The spirits of the giants were called Nephilim. Now, isn't that interesting? Because we've always considered calling the giants Nephilim. But what if that giants that died, their spirits then entered into giants, and then those giants were called Nephilim while they were alive? I don't know. Is it interesting? Just some interesting thoughts. But nevertheless, not that we should get sidetracked on that, but when the giant dies, that spirit is a disembodied spirit. I think that's the official term. It is a disembodied spirit. So it is a complete spirit of the giant that is a mixture between a human and an angel. And that disembodied spirit does not have a realm to go to. Think about the story of Lazarus, the poor man that was begging at the rich man's gate. And then that poor man died, and the rich man died, and the poor man went to paradise, and the rich man was in a place of torment. That's what the Bible tells us. And in that place of torment, the rich man was so thirsty, he wanted Lazarus, who he considered beneath himself, to depart the realm of paradise and bring him a cup of water. And yet they were divided by a great chasm. And he said, well, even if he could just bring me a drop of water in order to quench my thirst. We learned last week that the spirits of the giants, the disembodied spirits, have no food to eat, and they're thirsty. They are thirsty. But again, the realm, so you think about this realm, two different realms: a realm for the righteous dead, and a realm for the unrighteous dead. Both completely different places, one you don't want to be in. And yet the disembodied spirits don't have a place in either place. They don't have a place in either place. So they are forced to roam the earth, and they're disembodied spirits. So what are they looking for? They're looking for a body to inhabit. So that's where we get to Yeshua when he's crossing over the Sea of Galilee. So the lake, Galilee, Gennesaret, and he gets to the other side, and here they are confronted with a man called who is, his body was the dwelling place of a disembodied spirit called Legion, for we are many. So it gives you the thought that there's maybe 1,000 demons that are latched on and demonizing this man's body. And then when they recognize Yeshua, they're like, don't cast us. Where? Don't cast us. Oh, we got to look at that. Where? To the place of torment before the appointed time. Okay. These are a little different nuggets we're going to be talking about in Enoch. So these disembodied spirits know that they have a final destiny, but they know that time doesn't come until the judgment. And so they know who they're looking at, and that was Yeshua, the judge. So when when a disembodied spirit recognizes the judge who's able to pass judgment, they're pleading with him that he doesn't jump the gun, because they may even be thinking that the Messiah has come and the time of judgment has come. And if they've got a few more days, then perhaps that he would show enough mercy not to cast them, and that judgment day had not come, because now they were forced to look at him face to face, because they know the day of judgment would come, that they would face Yeshua, the judge, face to face, and they would receive their sentencing. Did you ever think about that? And I think that's a connection that takes us back here to Enoch. And I always look, did you ever ponder that? I pondered that. So that is where I'm just thinking that they understand that the point of being put into a place of torment is their final destination. They are facing the judge, but it wasn't time. Yeshua did not come to be judge of the earth at the time that he arrived, and that he was meeting this entity called Legion, because we are many, and so it wasn't like he was like, oh, well, that seems like a reasonable request that I can send you into that herd of pigs. And after all, what are the pigs doing in the land? And, so I'll go ahead and send you into the pigs, because the demonic spirits need a body. And so it was like, why would he have like this conversation where he considers their argument and then agrees to it? Well, I think what we're going to be looking at in Enoch, we're going to see a little bit about that. And so I just found the rich man and Lazarus. That's over in Luke chapter 16, beginning with verse 19. And where specifically it says in verse 23, and in Hades, he, talking about the rich man, lifted up his eyes, being in torment, and saw Abraham far away, like Abraham's bosom, and Lazarus in his bosom. And he cried out and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus that he may dip the tip of his finger in water and cool off my tongue, for I am in agony in this flame. But Abraham said, Child, remember that during your life you received your good things, and likewise Lazarus bad things, but now he is being comforted here, and you are in agony. And besides all this, between us and you, there is a great chasm fixed in order that those who wish to come over from here to you may not be able, and that none may cross over from there to us. And he said, Then I beg you, Father, that you would send him to my father's house, for I have 5 brothers, that he may warn them, lest they also come to the place of torment, Hades, the place of torment. But Abraham said, They have Moses and the prophets, let them hear them. So I think there's some very, very telling things in that story that have almost been a mystery. And I've heard people, from pulpits speculate as to it, and even doctrines coming out from this type of scenario. And, some would look at this is a parable, or is it a true thing? If someone wants to type in the comments where it is over in the Gospels, where Yeshua is crossing over the lake and casts out the demon called Legion, for we are many, then put that in there for all of us to look at that. I don't have a chance to look at that. All right, so these disembodied spirits, and they're roaming around the earth. They're looking for a body to inhabit. And I say, well, is that possession or demonization? And I think over in Mark, I think it really gives you the better outlook in the Gospel of Mark, because it really, the termination is demonized. So demon would also be another word, I think, that you could substitute for evil spirit. And a lot of times we haven't really concretely nailed down, there's evil spirits, but what are evil spirits? And then you might even look as to these evil spirits that are disembodied spirits, then they're looking for a home. And then there you go, Mark 5:9. And and they're looking for a home. And then you think about the occult practices by which human beings, so humans, are operating in the dark magic arts. And what are they doing? They're manipulating spirits. So what spirits are they manipulating? Well, I think the only spirits that are on earth that can be manipulated and be moved to do whatever would happen to be the evil spirits. Would you not agree? These evil ruach kot, and or these disembodied spirits of the dead giants that are roaming the earth because they don't have a place to go. So if they're roaming and available for hire, you can actually look at it. Are they available for hire? And they're being used, hired to manipulate time, matter, energy, people, all sorts of different things. And because that's what we see in the dark arts. And that was one of the things in chapter 16 that we're talking about, was in verse 3, where Yahweh speaking to Enoch, he says, say, in heaven have you been? In heaven have you been? Talking about the watchers who are given an assignment on earth to watch over mankind and even to help mankind. And then they chose to break Torah. The Torah commandment of these watchers was to follow the commands, the instructions of the Most High, and they broke those commands. They broke Torah. They broke Torah, anything that the Father commands. And so you think, well, do they have the same Torah we have? Well, I don't know. I think any word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yah is Torah. Torah meaning instructions. So if it is necessary that every created being, is set to and designed in order to serve the Most High and his purposes. And the purposes of the angelic was by command of the Most High was to serve mankind. And yet there was this perversion of the Torah, the instructions of Yah, or they just departed of it, shall we say that? And so now in chapter 16, say in heaven have you been? So you've been in heaven, you watchers, you've been in heaven. That was your place. And secret things, however, have not been manifested to you, yet have you known reprobated mystery. What? And we touched on that just a little bit last week, but I just want to remind you is that there are the secret things of heaven, and only those things are even withheld from the angels. All right. They're secret things. Now, I think that the angels are smart. I think they're observant. I think that they pay attention to different things, but they can misunderstand and misappropriate even the things that they see happen because of the sovereignty of the throne of heaven. And they think, well, when y'all did this, then these results happen. And is there something that maybe we can put into practice that would mimic that? Shall we say a counterfeit? And yet here in chapter 16, it says that yet you have known reprobated mysteries, that this you have related to women in the hardness of your heart, and by that mystery have women and mankind multiplied evils upon the earth. Say to them, never, therefore, shall you obtain peace. So by that mystery, so by that reprobated mystery. So in other words, they took what they thought was maybe how y'all did some of the miraculous things, and they counterfeited it. I mean, I can see, Hasatan being the major counterfeiter, and but the watchers having various levels of authority also be able to use this. And I would go to speculate, knowing what seems to be the motivator of the counterfeiting, and is that no food shall they eat, and they shall be thirsty, and that they shall rise up against the sons of men and against women, for they come forth during the days of slaughter and destruction. So I'm just speculating that maybe they needed, how about an energy source? And somehow or another, I don't, maybe trial and error, maybe through, through the dark arts and using different things, they found out that particular things provided energy for their counterfeiting. Yeah, I mean, Tammy, you put in there, it was Satan's counterfeiting, that what the Ruach would do with Miriam. Yeah. And so think about how, I know that was earlier, but you're right on track with me here. And so when do you think that the children of Israel were influenced by these spirits at the golden calf incident? Yeah, I do. Honestly, I do. And because I think by building, making idols, think about Lavan. Lavan was upset that his family idols were stolen by um, Rachel, and she was sitting on them, on her saddle, underneath her saddle, that she was sitting on them. And if you go to the book of Yasher, it says something about these idols at these homes. A lot of times of the wealthy, they would have a special room that would be the altar set up in the home. And these idols were made of shrunken heads. But in a lot of times those shrunken heads were of the defeated enemies of this person, this well-off person, and they had an enemy and they killed him and they took their head and they shrunk it. And then, but they would have these ceremonies where they would, it was, I can't remember the name of the ritual. I studied out actually at Sukkot, and I did a message on it. And they would invoke the spirits to come. It was like some type of inhabiting ceremony of one type or another. I'm using a paraphrase from what I had read up on, but it's been a while. I have to refresh my memory. And they would invoke a spirit to come, or maybe more than one spirit, to inhabit the head. And when they would invoke it, and then that shrunken head would be used to talk to. So if they needed to find out some information about what was going on, or maybe something about the future, or something like that, they would talk to the idols. Well, maybe that's some of the dark arts that they were taught, why? Because using the energy of a fallen enemy, the greater the enemy, the greater the source of power. I don't understand that sort of thing, but I think every one of us should consider that within us, there is some type of power. I think science is actually bringing this out to be true, that we have like an energy source that is like an electromagnetic source of energy that works within our body. And somehow or another, it even connects with the electromagnetic sphere of the earth. I think there's this connection. Why else do you think they were putting these nanobots in us? And how else are those nanobots actually getting charged to do these and self-assembling and working? They're using the energy within our bodies. And I just kind of think, well, maybe there's something about taking the energy of the dead body and putting it into these skulls, these shrunken heads, and it energizes, and there's something that is used that invokes the spirit to inhabit it, and it causes, because there's a trade-off. I mean, why would an evil spirit want to inhabit a dead skull other than that there is some type of charge to it? Well, think about this. Have you ever heard about New Agers using crystals? And certain crystals provide so much energy, and et cetera, et cetera. Or what about, I mean, why is child sacrifice, the blood of the innocent, so important? And why is the spilt blood of the innocent so important? Because what is it doing to charge the dark arts? I mean, what is the purpose of war? If you and I are out there and, people are like us in the world, are we out there wanting to cause wars? I don't think so. But for some reason, the powers that be, these elites, understand that there is blood spilling in war. And then why is it, get this, why is it, like, for example, when the United States went into Iraq, why did they think that 500,000 children, over 1 million innocent people uh, was acceptable collateral damage in Iraq. Acceptable collateral. Why would they? I mean, they just bombed, they carpet bombed cities. Why? Because the spilt blood of the innocent. Have you ever noticed that there was anything different in the Russia-Ukraine war? Is there a difference between what Russia has done as opposed to what Ukraine has done in that war over there? What we've seen is that Russia is not indiscriminately just carpet bombing cities. Have you noticed that? They're not just, they have these specific targets that they are hitting, and are typically military and strategic targets. And yet, what has Ukraine done? They have just since 2013, they slaughtered 14,000 innocent people. It wasn't where the resistance or the rebelling people of Donbass and their troops were fighting against Ukraine. Some of the artillery went their way, but they would indiscriminately hit neighborhoods and schools and hospitals and daycares and theaters, movie theaters, where innocent people were and children were. Why? What's the difference? Why do they hit innocent? And what the Russians have done is they've been very particular, at least up to this point in time, of what they're hitting. Now, mainstream media takes certain looks at it and say, look, they just carpet bombed this city and look at all the destruction of the buildings. I think what they're looking at is military targets within many times apartment buildings, using those as cover where innocent people are. And sadly, there is collateral damage. And that's what we've been finding out. That in Mariupol, they did that. In Mariupol, that's where the Ukrainians were hiding. Again, when the Russians were coming into Mariupol at the beginning of the war, remember that? So why would they use the places of civilians? Why do they have to have the spilling of blood? I think it's directly related to these reprobated mysteries, because there is a charge from the innocent blood. And I think it also has to do with quantum physics. Just the very fact that if you took a vial of my blood and you took it across the nation, and this has been proven all the way over to Australia, and then Australia, and then me sitting here, I won't put myself in it, but you can take a person who has some type of stimuli, like a lot of times. One of the experiments that they did is they subjected the person whose vial of blood was removed and taken over to Australia. That blood is still alive because it's linked to the person sitting there, and there is a stimulus, like watching a horror movie. That's why I didn't want to use myself, because I don't like horror movies. I don't like being scared. God's not giving us the spirit of fear, right? Okay, but subjected to something and it causes a stimuli of fear, and there is a particular thing that happens to the blood within that person's body when that stimuli occurs, and the blood in that vial that's across over in Australia is stimulated the same way as this person's blood is at the time, and that at the time of the stimuli. That right there is quantum physics. So this blood has an energy, and it has this link, and we can't see it, but it's interconnected. So just call it. I mean, after all, why do we have bugs and birds and fish and all sorts of other creatures that are able to migrate north and south? Because they're following energy lines. Why is it that many of the NFL football stadiums are built on ley lines? Look it up. Football stadiums on ley lines, and the pyramids and obelisks like the Washington Monument. Why are certain things on particular sites? Because they're on ley lines, and those are the energy fields that connect. So using the dark arts, using those things that were created by Yah, and manipulating them in order to empower the dark world. So Yeah, blood has water. Could it be that they are thirsty and they think the blood will refresh them? It could be. It could be. I think they have a personality that it cannot be satisfied. And so what happens is these evil spirits will find a body, and they get the satisfaction when they get the body to do their bidding. And you can think of all different type of things, like those that have addictions to drugs, addictions to gambling, addictions to sex, addictions to whatever. They are expressing their personality. And you can look at it and you probably think, well, those corrupt giants were probably involved in all that sort of thing. I mean, if they're willing to attack each other and eat each other, or if they're willing to attack mankind and eat mankind, eat men or women or children or whatever, I wouldn't put it past them. So, all right, let's move on, because it's a lot of extra thoughts from last week, but I thought it was worth going back and dwelling on a little bit longer. I know we've taken a good portion of the hour to talk about it, but I think it was very, very well worth it. So now, chapter 17 went into a little bit of a description of the angels, and so what they have the appearance of burning fire. We talked about that in Psalm 104:4 and Hebrews 1:7. And then let's go on to chapter 18. And now that's where we finished at chapter 17. We're going into chapter 18. And it says, I then surveyed the receptacles of all the winds, perceiving that they contributed to adorn the whole creation and to guard the foundation of the earth. So isn't that interesting that the winds are utilized? So the winds are utilized to guard the foundations. Now, to guard is actually in italics, so it's added there. Kind of interesting thought. I surveyed the stone, which supports the corners of the earth. Now that which supports in the Sefer version is added. It's added in there. I don't know if it's in there in the Apocrypha, but from the King James with the Apocrypha, I am not quite sure. I haven't looked at that. I surveyed the stone, but you can drop that and leave it out. I surveyed the stone, the corners of the earth. So I think support might make you think, well, is this about flat Earth? And I don't think so. When you start reading the rest of it, it doesn't seem to make sense that it's a flat Earth type of thing. But anyway, it says, I surveyed the stone, the corners of the earth. I also beheld the four winds which bear up the earth, and the firmament of the heaven. So we know that. So what is it about the winds? The winds, it says receptacles of all the winds. It's almost like that the winds receptacles, like do the winds come out of a particular item? I don't know. I think he's trying to use vocabulary to humanize it, but on the other sense, we know how winds are formed with all the different air pressures, the lows and the highs, and coming together. And so anyway, it's some thoughts that are going on. I also beheld the four winds which bear up the earth and the firmament of the heaven. I beheld the winds occupying the exalted sky, arising in the midst of heaven and of earth, and constituting the pillars of heaven. I saw the winds which turn the sky, which cause the orb of the sun and all the stars to set, and over the earth I saw the winds which support the clouds. So in other words, it's like the air's moving, and he's getting a glimpse. He may even get a download of like how the physics of all that works. And corner is probably the same word as boundaries. Could be. Yeah, that's interesting. And that's an interesting thought, Al. Like werewolves. This is probably where they thought of vampires come from, or even werewolves, bloodthirsty. Yeah, I do. I think there's that whole story, like Dracula. And other vampires is those. I mean, think about how they're portrayed. Dark, right? Just dark. And they're partaking in the blood of the innocent. That's really what the story is always about. It's about they have a thirst for blood. And when you look at, now I never watched the movie Eyes Wide Shut, but I think that portrays some of the dark elements of Hollywood and of the elite. And one of those things has to do with the drinking of the blood. Now, that's not the only place where I've heard testimonies about these evil things that are going on, and the drinking of the blood and the killing of the innocent and stabbing them and all that, tying them down on an altar, allowing fear to rise up. And then at the peak of the fear and the adrenaline rush, then that person is slaughtered, and then they take the blood and drink it with it's full of the adrenaline of that person. I mean, yeah, just nasty stuff. Yeah. So there's a parental, a parental advisement here as we go on and talk about that. All right. Going on, I saw the paths of the angels. I perceived at the extremity of the earth the firmaments of heaven above it. Then I passed on towards the south, where burnt by day and night 6 mountains formed of glorious stones, 3 to the east and 3 towards the south. Those which were towards the east were of a variegated stone, and of which was of marguerite, and another of antimony. And those toward the south were of a red stone. The middle one reached to heaven like the throne of Elohim, a throne composed of alabaster, and at the top was of sapphire. Well, what about sapphire? Remember over there in Exodus, and where the 70 elders and Moses and Aaron were up there, and they had this dinner, and they saw that the pavement, it was like I always call it the pavement of heaven is sapphire. It's kind of interesting. There's like the throne composed of alabaster, the top of which was sapphire. I saw too a blazing fire. So he's saying, well, the throne and the sapphire and stuff. And you think about the sky being kind of a sapphire color, that blue color. I saw too a blazing fire hanging over all the mountains. And there I saw a place on the other side of an extended territory where waters were collected. I likewise beheld terrestrial foundations deep in the fiery columns of heaven. And the columns of heaven I beheld fires which descended without number, but neither on high nor into the deep. Over these fountains also I perceived a place which had neither the firmament of heaven above nor the solid ground beneath. It was neither was there water above it, nor anything on wing, but the spot was desolate. And there I beheld 7 stars like great blazing mountains, and like ruachot entreating me, like spirits entreating me. And when the angel, so think about angels are also considered like ruachots, but they're a place from heaven. Then the angel said, this place, until the consummation of heaven and earth, will be the prison of the stars and other hosts of heaven. The stars which roll over fire are those which transgress the commandment of Elohim before their time arrived. Now, this tells us about what the watchers did, right? For they came not into their proper season. Therefore was he offended with them and bound them until the period of consummation of their crimes in the secret year. So at some future point, there is a consummation of the crime, the judgment day. And so it's almost like now with just chapter 18, my thoughts were at first, I was like, what part of earth and heaven is he talking about? And I'm almost thinking he's starting to give us a description of maybe a subterranean earth, because he's talking about columns and all sorts of these fiery elements, but I don't recognize them as anything on the earth. I mean, they have a resemblance of volcanic, but it doesn't say like a volcano and lava flowing and fiery rivers. But have you ever watched like Journey to the Center of the Earth? And it's depicted with these rivers of fire. It's like rivers of lava. It's kind of like what happened over in the Canary Islands. And I think was it Tenerife? I think it was Tenerife no, it wasn't Tenerife. It was that other island. Tenerife is part of the Grand Canaries. And I'll think of it. And anyway, you saw rivers of the lava coming down. It was like fire rivers. But you think about, well, what's going on? Where did they come from? Well, those fire rivers came up from underground, and then they came out of the volcano, and then they flow down. And so what we see flowing down is what's flowing on underneath. In fact, people that are smarter than I, the geologists and volcanists, I've been tracking like the flow of lava underneath the ground, and where then they follow like through seismic measurements the flow of the lava when they are entering or getting close to maybe a dormant volcano. And then they begin to say, hey, there's evidence that it looks like this dormant volcano may be coming alive, right? Yeah, like in Hawaii as well. And so I'm thinking he's describing something, but I'm almost thinking, has he shifted? Because he was in heaven. He was in the heavenly realms where the crystal stone was, and that shimmery diamond like ground was. And I mean, everything is just spectacular. And now he's describing something else. And that's why I feel like he's almost been transported somewhere else. And chapter 19 gets us to the point of where it says, then Uriel said, here the angels who cohabited with women, appointed their leaders, and assuming many forms, made men profane and caused them to err, so that they sacrificed to devils as to Elohim. Right. That's what we were talking about earlier, like the golden calf. Why would they do that? Or the shrunken heads, and everything in between. And so, see, I think that's part of the dark arts, that perverted, reprobated mysteries, and they're trying to tap into that unhuman supernatural realm. Okay. And it's for in the great day of judgment, with which they shall be judged until they are consumed, and their women also shall be judged. Now get this. This is about the women who led astray the angels of heaven, that they might salute them. And I, Hanuk, I alone saw the likeness of the end of all things, nor did any man see it as I saw it. Yeah. So he's getting us this glimpse to the judgment, but it also, this little nugget stuck in there, that the women also shall be judged who led astray the angels of heaven, that they might salute them. In other words, there was something that the women enticed the angels, and the angels left their abode in order to cohabitate with the women. There you go. We were talking about it, and that little nugget's put in there. That was chapter 19. Chapter 20. These are the names of the angels who watch. Uriel, one of the holy angels, who is over clamor and terror. Clamor and terror. Interesting thought. And Raphael, one of the holy angels, who is over the spirits of men, the ruachot of men. Raguel, one of the holy angels, who inflicts punishment on the world and the luminaries. Raguel, punishment on the world and the luminaries. I think whenever we've seen big resets in history, we could probably go back and say maybe Raguel was what brought judgment at a time in order to reset humanity, so that humanity would straighten up and live right. Could be inflicts punishment on the world and the luminaries. And I think now we're talking about the angelic figures, because there's all these different ways to talk about them. Michael, one of the holy angels, who is over mankind virtue. That's an interesting thing. He's over mankind virtue, commands the nations. Michael, over mankind virtue, commands the nations. Sarakiel, one of the holy angels, who is over the ruachot of the children of men that transgress. Oh, that's interesting. So these are the children of men. So the men's children, the men who transgress, these are their children. And Yah gives, and an angel, a holy angel, to watch out over those children. That's like amazing. Because a lot of times, you think, well, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. We break that curse in the name of Yeshua. And because how many times these children grow up and they're outstanding people, unlike their father, and could be under the influence of Sarikiel. How about Gabriel, Gabriel, one of the holy angels who is over the serpents, over paradise, and over the cherubim. The cherubim, right? Remember the cherubim, the one who was put on guard at the entrance to the Garden of the Garden of Eden. And so that's interesting. All right. We do have some more time. We can get into this. Chapter 21. Then I made a circuit to a place in which nothing was completed. All right. So his circuit, he's on this journey, and now he's going to this place where nothing was completed. So he's seen all these things, and I think it's in a subterrestrial world. We always hear, I've heard of this. You go to YouTube, you can find all sorts of people talking about the inner earth, the hollow earth, all of those type of things. I really don't follow a lot of that stuff, but the Jules Verne book, Journey to the Center of the World, is always fascinated me, and the movies they've made of it, I just think is just amazing. But anyway, he says, I'm going to this place where neither it's not completed. There's neither the tremendous workmanship of the exalted heaven. Think about what heaven looked like. We just went through that description last week. Nor of an established earth. Okay, nor of established earth. So like where mankind lives and builds our houses and buildings and stuff. But a desolate spot prepared and terrific. Terrific. That in English, you think terror and terrific come from the same root. Terrific. So it is prepared and terrific. So I'm thinking he's telling us this is not a cool place. It's undeveloped, and it's not a place you want to go to. We'll find out more. There too, I beheld 7 of the 7 stars of heaven bound in it together like great mountains. Wow. Beheld 7 stars of heaven bound in it together like great mountains, and like a blazing fire. Think about Hades, a blazing fire. I exclaimed, oh my goodness. So these stars, they're like mountains. These are huge angels, fallen angels that are bound at this location. And like a blazing fire. In other words, they are, remember angels are like flames of fire. So these are like blazing fires. I exclaimed. This is really important. He says, I exclaimed. How else do you really say is like, he's like, yeah. I mean, whoa. Or, I mean, I think about this. There's a book by Mary K. Baxter, and it's called The Divine Revelation of Hell. And where Yah took her, she said, Yeshua, she used the term Jesus, took her on a journey for 30 days into the different compartments of hell. That book was life-changing. And this was after. I mean, Sandi and I both read that book while in ministry. It's been a number of years. I think Sandy's reread it recently, but Divine Revelation of Hell. And she said she got to the point through that 30 days that she didn't want to go to sleep, turn off the light, because it was so horrific. I think that's what he's talking about here. And he says, like, I exclaimed, and for what species of crime have they been bound, and why have they been removed to this place? Then Uriel, one of the holy angels who was with me and who conducted me. So he's on a tour with Uriel, but there's actually more. And he conducted me, answered Enoch, why do you ask? Why do you reason with yourself and anxiously inquire? These are those of the stars which have transgressed the commandment of El Elyon, and are here bound until the infinite number of the days of their crimes be completed. From there, I afterwards passed on to another terrific place, I'd say, terrific place, where I beheld the operation of a great blazing and glittering, in the midst of which there was a division. Columns of fire struggled together to the end of the abyss, and deep was their descent, but neither its measurement nor magnitude was I able to discover, neither could I perceive its origin. Then I exclaimed, how terrible is this place! There's another exclamation point. How terrible is this place, and how difficult to explore! Uriel, one of the holy angels who was with me, answered me and said, Enoch, why are you alarmed and amazed at this terrific place, at the sight of this suffering? This, he said, is the prison of the angels, and here they are kept forever. So now we know that there's a secret number of days in which those days will be fulfilled. Then they will come under judgment, and then they will remain in this place. Well, that's all I've got for you tonight. It's been a journey. That was through chapter 21. We'll get to the rest next week. It's great to be with you. Join us again at Life of Worship, like I said. Until next time, shalom, shalom.
If you missed today's show or want to watch it again or want to tell someone where they can watch this episode, go to lambnetwork.tv, where you will find this show and all the other live Lamb show archives in the on-demand section of the website. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to tell someone about the Messianic Lamb Network. We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussions, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the lambnetwork.tv website. I'm Sandi Craig, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.